A major political party makes a move that could either save it or completely break it, right in the heart of Nigeria's political landscape. Welcome to Africa Watch 360, calm, clear, and focused news you can trust. We look deeper so you understand better.
All right, let's get right into it. First, we'll cover the big event, the expulsion itself. Then we're going to trace the backstory to figure out how we even got to this point. We'll break down the party's official case, hear the pretty sharp reactions from the other side, and then we'll zoom out and look at what this all means for the party and for Nigeria's political future. So the date was November 15th, 2025. The place, a national convention in the city of Ibadan. And the party, Nigeria's People's Democratic Party, the PDP, one of the country's two political giants, took a step that can only be described as drastic. A motion was raised right there on the convention floor, and just like that, the party expelled some of its most powerful and well-known members. I mean, look at this list. It's a who's who of political heavyweights. You've got the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, the very outspoken former governor, Ayodele Fayose. Even the party's own national secretary and legal advisor were shown the door. Make no mistake, this wasn't just some minor slap on the wrist. This was a political earthquake. Now, a move this big doesn't just happen overnight. This is really the explosive end to a long, simmering, and very public fight that's been tearing the party apart from the inside for years. To really get a handle on why this happened, we've got to understand the key players who've been at the very center of this power struggle. So, on one side, you have the party's old guard, the establishment figures like Chief Bo George, who was one of the founding fathers of the PDP. He's the one who actually put the motion forward. He was backed by people like Governor Bala Mohammed, who chairs the PDP Governors Forum. And on the other side, you have this incredibly powerful, well-funded faction led by Nyesom Wike, a man whose influence has been, well, both a huge asset and a major source of conflict for the party. You know, to really grasp the logic here, a simple analogy might help. Imagine a national football team getting ready for the World Cup. You have a star player, incredibly talented, but what if he starts openly criticizing the coach, cheering for a rival team, and even backing lawsuits that could stop the whole tournament? The team's management has a really tough choice, right? Do you keep the disruptive star because of his power, or do you let him go to bring back discipline and focus to the rest of the team? Well, that's pretty much the exact dilemma the PDP leadership felt they were facing. Okay, so this is crucial. How did the party justify such a huge move? Well, they were very careful not to frame this as a personal fight. Instead, they presented it as a constitutional necessity. The entire case against Wike and his allies was built on what they say are specific violations of the party's own rulebook. The man who put the motion forward, Chief Bo George, he definitely didn't pull any punches. He basically argued that this faction's actions had wrecked the party's reputation in public. He framed the expulsion not as a punishment, but as a rescue mission, a way to save the party from what he called a deliberate plan to destroy it from the inside out. The official charge was anti-party activities. Now, that's a serious accusation in any political group. It basically means you're actively working against the team you're supposed to be a part of. And in this case, it wasn't just some vague complaint. The leadership pointed to what they saw as a clear and consistent pattern of behavior designed to sabotage the PDP. And what's really interesting is how specific they were. The party didn't just throw out accusations. They laid out a case, linking each action to a specific article in their constitution. They alleged that Wike's camp had campaigned for other parties, which they say is a direct violation of Article 58. They accused them of setting up illegal parallel party structures, and this is a big one. They pointed to them sponsoring lawsuits against the party itself. And it seems the final straw was one particular lawsuit. They even cited the case number, CABJ CS212. This was a legal action filed to try and stop the very convention where they all got expelled. For the party leadership, this was the ultimate act of sabotage, using the courts to try and paralyze the entire party. For them, it was game over. That was the smoking gun. The party tried to present this as a clean, necessary break to restore order. But the reaction from the other side, well, that painted a very, very different picture and showed just how deep these cracks really go. The response from the Wike camp was fast, but it wasn't a formal rebuttal or legal counterargument. Nope. It was just outright dismissal and ridicule, turning what was a political dispute into a full-blown war of words. So first, let's just remember the official PDP line. Their statement called this a landmark move. And the keywords they used were unity, discipline, and focus. They're projecting this image of a fresh start, like a ship that's dropped some heavy, troublesome cargo so it can sail faster toward the 2027 elections.
But an aide to Minister Wike, Larry Olayinka, shot back almost instantly on social media with this scathing response. He didn't argue the points. He just mocked the entire event. He called the convention a social party where people got intoxicated. The message is crystal clear. We don't take you seriously, and your decisions mean nothing. And that just perfectly shows you the contempt between these two factions. One side sees a constitutional action, the other sees a joke.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap where we are. Nigeria's main opposition party has kicked out one of its most powerful factions, citing the party rulebook. The party says it's for unity, the other side says the whole thing is a farce. This really sets the stage for the big question: what are the real-world consequences of this political explosion? And that leads us to the billion-dollar question. What happens now? The PDP has basically made a huge bet that they can get stronger by cutting off a part of themselves. But can you really create unity by expelling so many influential people? This is the absolute heart of the gamble. The party leadership is betting that by removing what they see as a constant source of internal conflict, they can finally rebuild and become a stronger opposition. But there are massive, undeniable risks here that could just as easily send the party into an even deeper spiral. So let's break this down. The potential upside for them is pretty clear. A more disciplined party could have a much clearer message and stop wasting money and energy fighting itself in court. But the risks, they are huge. People like Wike and Fayose aren't just names. They command huge political machines. They have access to serious funding, and they have very loyal supporters. Kicking them out can mean losing millions of votes, sparking a whole new round of messy legal battles, and cutting off major sources of campaign cash. Now, it's really important to zoom out for a second. This isn't just an internal PDP family drama. The strength or weakness of the country's main opposition party affects the entire political landscape of Nigeria, especially with the 2027 elections slowly coming into view. Really, what this means for Nigeria's democracy boils down to which way this gamble goes. If the plan backfires and the PDP gets even weaker, you could see a major power vacuum. A weak opposition makes life much easier for the ruling party, and that could lead to a less competitive political system. But if the gamble works, a leaner, more focused PDP could actually become a much stronger opposition force, and that's something that's vital for any healthy democracy. So, we've laid out the facts as we have them, the arguments from the party, the sharp reaction from the other side, and the high stakes for everyone involved. The big question is still hanging in the air. And it's so important to remember, this is really just the opening chapter. The expelled members themselves haven't even made a formal unified response yet. You can be almost certain that legal challenges and some major political maneuvering are coming next. This story is far, far from over.
We will definitely keep following this story as it unfolds. What's your own take on this? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this analysis useful, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more clear, deep dive analysis from Africa Watch 360.